Could I pass for part Asian? Could I? Part, maybe? Well, my grandmother was Mexican, so by default, I was part Native American via Mexico, which is like Mayan and Aztec, and they are descendants of Asians long, long ago. So I guess in all reality, I perceive that technically I am, according to my DNA test, it says 21.6% that I am Central American, which again, Mayan, Aztec, descendants of Asian people. So nearly a quarter of me, technically, according to my heritage DNA test, technically I'm Asian. Technically, nearly a quarter. Definitely more than a fifth. Technically. Okay? I want to talk about Asian men and hair loss. Again, I think it's pretty fascinating. And the more I make videos about it, the more I talk about it, the more I think I've just come to the realization that I've talked before that maybe Asian men have this blessing when it comes to hair loss. They have this blessing, and that is, in general, Asian men don't experience hair loss in their early years, right? We talked about Prince William. You know, he's a year younger than me. He really just doesn't have hair up here anymore. He buzzed it off and, you know, broke the internet or whatever. It's typical for men of Asian or of European descent to go bald young in life. Asian men, not so much. Yes, they're more likely to have diffuse thinning, but even then, in general, men of European descent are more likely to lose their hair earlier in life than an Asian man. And I learned that by spending 2 summers in Thailand and noticing, here are these men in their 50s and 60s and they still have at least this much hair on their head. What in the world? So that's when I realized it. So at the surface, you could think, well, that's a blessing. If you're an Asian man, or even if you've got some Asian blood in you, then that's a blessing. You have a better chance of not going bald. So I made a video about that months ago. And then I had to do a follow-up as people who were Asian, who subscribed to my channel, and they basically were showing me the other side of it. That not so much. What if you live in a culture where most men don't lose their hair and you're one of the few that does? You're part of the minority that does. Well, there's a lot more pressure on you. It sounds like apparently it's okay to hold those people back in their careers and to embarrass them and make fun of them. It sounds awful that exists. Because in America, even if someone did, you just laugh about it and own it. And then they're like, oh, that guy's confident, I'll leave him alone. But it sounds like it's a different world, like with Asian culture, when it comes to if you're part of the minority that lose your hair. So here's what I'm starting to think. I'm starting to think that maybe it's a blessing and a curse. And maybe it's a curse more than it is a blessing. Because here in America, I mean, honestly, as long as you own it and you go bald young, you're fine. As long as you own it, as long as you make it who you are, you're good to go. It's a matter of making that decision and getting there. But even if you did that as an Asian man who went bald young, it wouldn't quite be the same experience, it doesn't sound like. So I'm starting to believe that it's not necessarily a good thing unless you live in America. If you're an Asian American, then maybe you're okay. Maybe then you can go ahead and just shave it off, buzz it off if you start losing your hair. Because now, as an American, more than anything, you're an American. You may be Chinese or Japanese or Thai, but you're an American. And when you're an American, you live in this culture. You think the way that we think. And we do think that men with shaved or buzzed off hair, especially if they work out, that they are attractive. It's funny because even Vin Diesel, who is arguably half African American, half Italian, something like that, if you look at him, no one's going to think, that's a good-looking guy. Yet women do. women do. And therefore, if women think that he's attractive, suddenly he becomes attractive. And he's attractive in a different way than Brad Pitt is. But who cares? If you're more attractive in that way, then you just accept that label and go with it. So I have so much compassion for Asian men who are balding. I really do. I just hope that you can move to America. Because if you can move here, you can be accepted in our culture with the balding. I'm trying to imagine myself, a married man, age 36, 2 kids. I'm working this corporate job in Japan or China, wherever it is. And I'm held back in my career. I'm society laughs at me, or I'm invisible to them because of my DNA, that I'm the exception to the rule, that I go bald by the time I'm 30. Like, that's just, my heart is like breaking even thinking about that. So, is it a curse or a blessing to be an Asian man when it comes to hair loss? Yes, your chances of keeping most of your hair most of your life are much greater. But if you don't fall into that category and you fall in the minority, it sounds like you've got a rougher road being accepted by society, at least in that culture. So, I'm not here to say that America is the greatest country in the world and all other countries are awful. No, no, no. I'm saying one advantage about American culture, I believe, is that we accept balding men as masculine and attractive, as long as they work out and, you know, act confident and dress kind of nice and don't treat people like jerks, you know. In that case, it can work out. It's funny, you're seeing a character arc here. Just months ago, I was like, yeah, Asian man, they got it pretty good. And now I'm like, but if they're not on the good side of great, then it's more difficult. So what are your thoughts on that? And how do you feel about me saying how, in essence, I'm almost kind of like a quarter Asian, technically, because my grandmother was Mexican. And according to the DNA test I took, it revealed that she would have had to be something like 80% Native American. And when I say Native American, I mean Mayan and Aztec. The people who, you know, Apocalypto, those people from that Mel Gibson movie that you never saw that I did, those would have been my ancestors up to a quarter of my DNA that I have. So tell me how you feel about that right here. And don't forget to watch me on TV if you can on February 20th on the Lifetime Network. And I love you, man.